I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. Not because of an accident, not because of some stranger's cruelty, but because of my own family. The people who were supposed to protect me, the ones who gave me life, were the very ones who tore me apart. I was standing in the living room that day, clutching my trembling hands together, praying for understanding, begging for just a drop of love. Instead, I was met with silence, and then words so sharp they cut deeper than any knife. "You are no longer part of this family." Those words burned into me like fire, searing through every part of my soul. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, I wanted to believe it was all a bad dream. But it was. That was the day I was disowned. And yet what they didn't know, what they could never imagine, was that I would rise again. I would build something they could never break. I would build a family stronger than blood, forged in love, loyalty, and truth. But before I tell you how I created that new life, you need to understand how it all began, how betrayal slowly seeped into my world like poison, until it finally destroyed everything I thought was real. My name is Lisa. And once upon a time, I believed I had the perfect family. We weren't rich, we weren't the kind of family you see in magazines or on TV, but we had something I thought was rare. We had closeness, or at least I believed we did. My childhood was filled with moments that felt magical. Sunday mornings, my mom would make pancakes, humming to herself in the kitchen while sunlight poured through the curtains. My dad, stern but kind, would sit at the head of the table, reading the newspaper, occasionally sneaking me a smile when Mom wasn't looking. And then there was my brother Daniel, my partner in crime, my secret keeper, the one who swore he'd always have my back. Those days felt safe, secure, untouchable. I used to sit on our porch at night, looking at the stars and think, I'm lucky. No matter what happens, I'll always have my family. But life has a cruel way of showing you that what glitters isn't always gold, that behind the smiles and laughter, shadows can lurk. And sometimes those shadows aren't from strangers, they come from the very people you love most. Looking back now, I can see the cracks that were always there, tiny things I ignored, brushed aside, excused because I didn't want to believe the truth. The disapproving glances, the whispered arguments behind closed doors, the way my parents always had conditions. We love you, but only if you do this. We are proud of you, but only if you become that. Their love was never truly unconditional. It was a contract, and one day I would fail to meet its terms. It happened the year I turned 19. I had finally found the courage to be myself, to stop hiding, to stop pretending, to stop living for everyone else's expectations. For once in my life I felt free. But freedom, as I would learn, comes with a price. The day I told my family the truth about who I really was, about the dreams I had, the choices I wanted to make, the person I was becoming, I thought they might be shocked, maybe even upset at first, but I believed their love would win. I was wrong. I can still see my mother's face that night. Her eyes weren't filled with tears of concern or worry. They were filled with something far colder, disappointment. My father's jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists on the table, not in anger at the world but at me, as though I had betrayed them. Daniel looked at me with confusion, maybe even pity, but not with the brotherly loyalty he once promised. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. I begged them to speak. I pleaded for just one word of reassurance. And then it came. "You are no longer part of this family." The sentence that ended everything. I felt my chest tighten, my knees weaken, my vision blur. They weren't just words, they were a sentence, a punishment, a curse. I packed my bag that night. No hugs, no tears from them. No one stopped me. The house I had grown up in, the walls that had once felt warm and safe, suddenly felt colder than any winter storm. As I walked out into the night, carrying nothing but a single suitcase and a broken heart, I told myself one thing. If they don't want me, fine. One day I'll prove to them that family is not about blood, it's about love, and I will find it even if I have to build it myself. The night I left my family's house, the world felt unbearably silent. I dragged my suitcase down the cracked sidewalk, each step echoing like thunder in my chest. The streets were dark, empty, and I felt more alone than I ever had in my entire life. Do you know what it feels like to have nowhere to go? To realize that the people who raised you, who promised to love you forever, suddenly don't care if you live or vanish into the night. That was me. I rented a small, windowless room in the back of a stranger's house. The paint was peeling, the mattress smelled of mildew, and the walls seemed to close in on me every night, but it was all I could afford. I worked late shifts at a cafe, surviving on tips, smiling at strangers while my heart carried scars no one could see. Every time I saw families walk in together, laughing and sharing stories, a piece of me broke again. At night I cried into my pillow asking myself, why wasn't I enough? Why didn't they fight for me? I sank deeper into loneliness, convinced I was destined to wander this world unwanted. But just when I was ready to give up, fate intervened. It happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. The cafe was nearly empty, and I was wiping down tables when a woman walked in, drenched from head to toe. She looked exhausted, but her eyes held something familiar, pain. She smiled at me, a soft, weary smile. "Do you serve anything warm?" I brought her tea, and for some reason I lingered. We talked. Her name was Sarah. She told me she was estranged from her own family too. She had been through heartbreak, betrayal, and abandonment. For the first time in months I felt seen. Over the weeks that followed, Sarah came back often. Slowly I realized she wasn't just a customer, she was a friend. She listened to my story without judgment, without pity. She didn't tell me to get over it. She didn't tell me it was my fault. Instead, she said something that stayed with me forever. Family isn't who you're born to, Lisa. It's who shows up when the world turns its back on you. Her words ignited something inside me, a spark of hope I thought I had lost forever. Sarah introduced me to her circle, people just like us, people who had been abandoned, rejected, or betrayed by those they trusted most. There was James, who had been cast aside by his parents after losing his job. There was Maria, who left home when her dreams clashed with tradition. There was Kayla, who never knew love until she built it herself. And then there was me. At first I was cautious, afraid to trust, afraid that if I let myself believe again I'd only be broken once more, but slowly their kindness dissolved my walls. We started gathering every weekend in Sarah's small apartment. We cooked meals together, laughed at silly movies, and shared stories of our scars. And somewhere along the way, I realized something extraordinary. I wasn't lonely anymore. For the first time since being cast out, I felt home. This wasn't just friendship, it was family, chosen, not inherited. And in that family there were no conditions, no contracts, no ultimatums. Only love. I kept it all a secret though, not because I was ashamed, but because deep inside I wanted the day to come when my real family would see, when they'd realize what they lost. And that day would come sooner than I imagined. It was at a community event months later. My group, my new family, was helping organize food drives for people in need. I was laughing with James as we stacked boxes when I felt a chill run down my spine. I turned and froze. It was my mother. She was standing across the room, staring at me with a look I couldn't read. Shock, anger, maybe even guilt. I hadn't seen her since the night they disowned me, and suddenly here she was, watching me build a life without them. I wanted to run, but something inside me refused. Instead, I stood taller, smiled at Sarah, and continued helping. My mother eventually walked over. Her words were sharp but tinged with something else, curiosity. "So this is what you've been doing, playing house with strangers." I felt the old wound reopen, but I didn't let her see me bleed. Instead, I said quietly, "They're not strangers, they're family." Her eyes narrowed, she didn't respond. She turned and left, her silence echoing louder than words. But I knew then, my secret was no longer mine. My old world had collided with my new one. And soon, the confrontation I had long avoided would come crashing down. They thought I would crumble. They thought that without them, I would vanish into the shadows. But I didn't vanish. Piece by piece, I built myself back up. With Sarah's encouragement, I started college courses again. James connected me to a part-time job in community outreach. Slowly, I began finding not just stability, but purpose. We created projects together, organizing food drives, helping abandoned youth, and mentoring kids who felt unwanted, like we once did. Word spread, and soon our small circle grew into a recognized community program. And the best part, I was at the heart of it. The girl who had been thrown away was now lifting others up. I didn't shout at my family, I didn't send angry letters, I didn't beg them to notice me. Instead, I let my success do the talking. That, I realized, was the sweetest form of revenge, not to destroy them, but to prove I never needed them to begin with. Still, I knew one day they'd see it all, and when they did, the truth would burn brighter than any words I could say. The day came at a charity gala. Our organization had been invited to receive an award for the work we'd done in the community. I was asked to speak on behalf of the group. I stood on stage, lights blinding, the crowd applauding, and then there they were, my parents, my brother, sitting in the audience. My heart pounded, but I didn't falter. I looked out at the sea of faces and began my speech. I stand here not because life was easy, but because it was. I was abandoned. I was told I didn't belong. I was left behind by the very people who were supposed to love me. But what they didn't know is that family isn't defined by blood. Family is defined by love, loyalty, and showing up. And because of that truth, I built my own family, a stronger one, a real one. The room was silent. I could feel their eyes on me, heavy with the weight of their own choices. After the event, they approached me. My mother's voice trembled. "Lisa, we didn't know, we didn't think." I stopped her, not with anger, not with hate, but with calm resolve. "You knew, you chose, and so did I. The difference is I chose love, and I won't apologize for that." For the first time, I saw tears in my father's eyes. Daniel looked down, ashamed, but it was too late. I wasn't seeking their apology anymore. I wasn't seeking their approval. I had already won. Life after that moment didn't magically erase the scars. My family never fully returned to me, and perhaps they never will. But here's what I learned. When the people you love betray you, it doesn't mean you're unlovable. When you're disowned, it doesn't mean you're worthless. It means your story isn't finished yet. Because sometimes the family you're born into is not the family meant for you. Sometimes the strongest bonds are the ones you build yourself, with people who choose you every single day. I may have lost my blood family, but I gained something greater: truth, freedom, and love without conditions. And if you've ever been abandoned, if you've ever been told you don't belong, hear this. You are not alone, you are not broken, you are not a mistake. You have the power to create a new story, to build your own family, to rise from betrayal stronger than ever. I am Lisa. And though my family disowned me, I built a stronger one in secret. And that, my friends, is the sweetest revenge.